Yo.
Mr. Razor, what is going on, man?
Hey, man.
So, what the fuck can you say about that?
What?
A game, man.
Well, I
It's-
wasn't that good a game, but that was kind of a bit mad, really.
What?
The Russia game, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard. Neither team really looked that good, really, to be honest.
No, and you know what, man? You guys are good because they look gassed. Like,
Yeah,
absolutely
well, they got to play.
gassed.
They've just played another round of extra time and pens, whereas we didn't. So, and
Yep.
they also played extra time in their last game. Both of those teams. Wow. So, yeah, that's helpful. It's just another one of those little things. Those little 1% advantage things you get, you know.
Yep. It's fucking. You must be in a bit of shock at this point. I mean, how could you even. Have you processed it, man? You guys are in the semifinal
Uh,
of the World Cup.
yeah, it's pretty good, hey. I mean, I don't really feel that surprised in a lot of ways.
Really?
Um, yeah, we have been immense, really. If you look at the way we've played football, it is just, well, unbelievable compared to previous ways we've always approached it, and just everything seems to just be spot on. Just everything. Every game we've had, it's been a different type of game, and we've still won those games. I mean, today is probably the best we've played so far. You know, I never really felt nervous watching that game. There was a couple of moments, but we got our first goal, and it's like, there we go. And then after the second goal, 58 minutes, it's just like, well, fuck me, you know.
Yeah, that was. I mean, I don't know what I expected. I guess in my head, I was worried that England would just come out flat or something. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, there's always that danger, but I mean, you know, the more you see this particular England team, the less you fear that's going to happen. It's just like all of those things we've kind of just put to bed now. All of them. All of those things about crumbling under pressure, going flat and not being able to win a game when we're drawing a game, winning a game late in the last minutes, winning a game on penalties, you know, doing extra time, and then after all that, just doing a proper dominant kind of job today, like a professional. It was like a Premier League game today. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
It
it was
just
definitely professional win. They just went in there and
totally
just got it done.
professional win, really, and did it just everything perfectly. You know, we scored with our ultimate weapon, which is the set pieces, and it's just perfect game plan, really. Perfect game plan, perfect game management. We fucking played possession football. I mean, England played possession football.
Yeah,
It's
that was
it's
crazy.
unprecedented, really. You know, I just keep thinking back to the times watching us before, being so frustrated with how shit we were, and those players we were supposed to have had were supposed to be able to play the type of football that we now are playing. You know, this possession football and maximising the set pieces. I mean, that's NFL stuff. That is. You know,
Well,
that's where that's come from.
you know what
Because
though?
the manager spent time with at least I think a couple of NFL teams studying the strategy and the tactics and the plays and all that kind of stuff. So you can see that he's applying that to the set pieces. The team, I mean, the way we take set pieces is just scary. It's almost like, whoa, why has no team really kind of done this before? Like totally maximise the set pieces. I mean, I suppose Germany have been fairly good at them in the past. But
I
that just looks like our whole game plan is with the set pieces, and it's really, really effective.
You know, it's funny
And
now
it's
that
deadly.
you mention him going to NFL teams and learning tactics. I get now why they were lining up the way they were lining up on free kicks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They
It's
would
all
have
set
like a
plays,
they would have
man.
like a almost like an offensive line, and then they'd have
Yeah.
the guy who was going to jump over just kind of like behind that wall.
What
It was like a
happens? What
reversed
happens?
wall.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And what happens? I've noticed as well today. What happens is you have like 4 or 5 of them in that line. All the defenders are in close, and then like 2 or 3 of them will split out either in either direction, not towards goal, but left and right.
Right.
And it leaves a massive gap in the middle. In the middle on the penalty spot, there's just this huge gap, this gap of space. And one of the players that hasn't split away will arrive into that gap, and that's how we scored. That's how Stones scored. That's how we scored today. Um, Dyer nearly scored from that in extra time when we played Colombia. Um, you can just see it. It's absolute perfection the way it works, man. And they've studied that shit, and they have plays for all of that. And the players themselves, they'll call who's going to do what, and it's just like the ultimate weapon, man. Because you can always get for corners, can't you? You can always, if your whole game plan is to try and play through a team, you get these teams that park the bus, you're fucked. And when you're taking corners, you play a short corner, you're fucked.
Yeah,
But
they were really
oh,
playing
menacing that.
defensively, man. Like holy crap. I wouldn't say
Yeah,
they
as you would
parked the
expect them
bus, but
to,
that's as
and
close as
see,
you could
yeah,
get
that's
without
the way they
using.
play. I mean, yeah, it is. You're right. They did. They never looked like they were going to score a goal, really. Well, actually, they did. They did create a couple
They
of
had that one.
chances.
Pickford made an incredible
Yeah, yeah.
save,
That
and
was just to add
one,
to everything else on the day. The keeper was just flawless again. Really starting to look like one of the best keepers in the world, really.
going back to something you said a little earlier. I didn't know about the NFL stuff, so I was like, oh, I wanted to hear more about that. But something you said earlier about the teams in the past, the England teams, the golden
Yeah.
generation, these
Yeah.
really, really, really good players that were on the team. They would hire, foreign coaches, these,
Yeah.
Capello, Goranson, these guys who had been successful, and it was sort of like this. We have these players, and let's get this big name coach, and they'll. It never looked like England. It never looked like what I consider
No,
to be English
exactly.
football. I became
Yeah.
an EPL fan because of the speed, the intensity, the
Yeah.
physicality of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's different from other brands of football. And I
Yeah.
feel like
It
in the
is. No
past we
bias.
never got to see that true representation of English football. You know what
No,
I
we
mean? It
didn't.
was
You're
like
dead right.
they
And you
just
hear the
looked
coach talk about that now as well, like the identity of the our national identity and the identity of the team. And he talked about how previous teams have not had their own identity. I remember going into tournaments with all these players, still talk about, oh, the manager still doesn't know his best 11. He's playing players out of position. He's doing this. He's doing that. Like no one needs, and you see it on the pitch. The players don't seem to know what they're doing. But Southgate has gotten drilled like the SAS man. He's gotten drilled. He's gotten drilled, and they're all into the tactics. And obviously, the more it works, the more they buy into that and keep doing it and get better at doing it. I mean, yeah, it's scary
did you
actually
see
how
them prepping
efficient we
for the
look. We
Sweden
look
game?
German, mate. We look German. We look
Efficient, yeah,
efficient and drilled
compact,
and compact and calm
keep
and
in shape.
confident, like Germans, like the German teams before that you've seen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally know what you mean, and
And
I
that's
think
amazing to see that.
going back to what you said earlier, and also connecting it to what you said just now, Gareth Southgate. Do you know part of the preparation? I don't know if you saw this, but they have a show here in America called World Cup Tonight, and they were showing you guys
Right.
preparing for the game, and you know what you guys were doing?
No.
You guys were playing dodgeball.
What you mean, like the run up?
No, dodgeball, where like you have a circle of players. Yeah, well, in the run up to the game, yeah, like the prep to the Sweden
You
game,
mean
like
today? Before today?
before today, like yesterday. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
a bunch of players were in a circle. There was a couple players in the inside, and they were throwing the ball, trying to hit them. They were playing fucking dodgeball.
Yeah. He's created this whole atmosphere of fun and stuff, and like, they sort of made this whole big deal about how they're just having fun on this camp, and with the trying to get the press on the right side in terms of like, being more open with press conferences and interviews with the players. And they've been having this daily darts competition where one player from the team will play one of the journalists in a game of darts, and
Wow.
just kind of all these sort of things they're
Fucking
doing
genius. Brilliant, dude. And see,
to
that's
make the camp happy. It's got to be a happy camp. It's got to be a unit, hasn't it? The whole thing's got to be a unit. There can't be any drama. You always hear and see these teams that fail to do very well as they should, because there's always some kind of drama involved or off the pitch stuff that's just not quite harmonious. And
right.
Southgate has just created this ultimate harmonious squadron, if you like, or fucking battalion of fucking England soldiers, mate, and they're just drilled. And they did some. He got them doing some SAS training. They spent like a week away doing some SAS training with the SAS, and like I say, he's been studying really closely NFL. Massively looking at the penalties. The penalties, us winning on penalties wasn't a fluke. In that, he's put hundreds of hours of effort into studying the penalties, the psychology of it, drilling the players. They all know what they're doing. They all know the penalty they're taking. They all have their right little special preparations. And when we lost to when we lost to 1996 and he missed that penalty, he'd never taken a penalty before.
Really?
Yeah, and the manager, asked him to take a penalty, and being him, he said, "Yeah, I'll do it," because he just wanted to do one for the team, and he missed it. And so that's a big driving force in his preparation of the team for penalties. You are going to go for a penalty shootout in a World Cup tournament.
Yeah, more than likely. Yeah.
You always see Gary Lineker. Gary Lineker, obviously. He
I do.
hosts the BBC. He hosts all of the BBC kind of footage and coverage. And he always says about how he never understood that previous teams never really practiced penalties. And
Yeah,
and
that's just
now we
seems like
do,
a
because they
no-brainer to me. You
understand.
practice everything else. Why
We have
wouldn't
this
you
psychological coach and just all these things. He's just gone to every last detail for everything, and it's just you can see it. We look like a team that's so well drilled that we've been playing together. We look like a club team,
Yeah. Yeah,
right? The way we
exactly.
pass the ball around, everyone knows where everyone is. Everyone knows everyone's job. Um, it's just whereas before we never ever remotely looked like a team. The only time we'd ever scrape through games was when one or two individuals would do something a bit special, and we would have those moments. You always get moments in games where any team can score. You create those moments, and that's how we would get by before. But now we look like, we just look like a really one of the best teams in it. We do. We generally do.
Yeah.
I sort of thought it at the start. I didn't want to say it because
Cuz you no,
there's a
you
long
did
way to
say it. You
go,
said
and the awards.
I remember after the first game you said, we didn't score a lot of goals, but we looked really good. I remember you
Yeah, we
saying
did, we
that.
did, we did, and I thought it. There was a couple of friendly games before the tournament,
Yeah, but
warm-up
friendlies
games, and I
that
watched those.
doesn't
I know. Friendly don't tell you a lot, but we did look good, and you can just instantly tell the
it didn't
difference
the
between
difference.
the England team now and the past five England teams
Yeah.
for the last five World Cups is night and day.
Well, here's the thing, and
We
again,
never ever
I hate to
other
keep
than
going back.
1990, we never ever looked like we had a team that knew what the fuck they were doing, that were really ever going to be good enough to get anywhere in the tournament. There was always massive doubt.
Well, again, dude, and I hate to harp on the golden generation, but I think the thing to me, and I've said this, I said it before the World Cup. I've said it just when we're talking about football in general, whether it was during the Euro or just whatever. We're talking about how both our countries sort of underachieve. And what have I always said about England? I've always said the fucking pressure, man. The pressure on these teams.
Yeah.
I think, to be fair, the pressure in the past has been insane. And bringing in Southgate, bringing in this sort of young team that doesn't have. I mean, there's some big stars in there for sure. You know, Harry
Oh, of
Kane,
course.
Sterling, Rashford. You've got names that people know, but it's just not the same
It's
as
not the same.
before. And I remember you even saying that, like before the tournament. You're like, it's not the same.
Yeah, I do.
There's a difference. This is different. You brought in all these new players. It's a whole new thing. Everyone's sort of, buying into the system. There's less pressure. They're playing darts. They're playing dodgeball. They've got the media in on it playing darts too. It's this whole other thing, man. And I think
Southgate gets it. He's been in the World Cup for England, and seen all the bad shit and where we got it wrong, and he knows how all this stuff works, So
it just kind of
yeah,
makes
it's
you.
amazing, mate. It's just amazing. It just all makes sense in a lot of ways. It's almost like an absolute masterpiece in terms of just everything, every last thing,
Do
every
you
last detail,
do you
every
think
last
it's
thing.
also a case of like, a great manager doesn't automatically make a great World Cup manager?
Oh
Like
yeah, it's totally different, mate. Yeah,
it's a
that's
I
definitely
mean,
true.
Roberto
100%.
Martinez obviously the exception because he's done a great job with Belgium, but I mean, it
Yeah.
almost seems like,
I mean, no, you don't mean you can't do it, but most
right.
of the
It
managers will
doesn't
tell you it's a
automatically
totally
mean.
different.
It doesn't automatically,
Yeah, you're right.
this guy's had success at the club level. He's won the Champions League or whatever. It doesn't
Yeah,
automatically
it's
mean.
different now. It's a totally different thing. You when you are managing the team day in day out for a year, it's just a whole different scenario. Plus, the team gets to play about 45, 50 games in a season.
Right.
Whereas, we get to play 7, hopefully.
Yeah. And
It's
that's it.
just a
And
totally
in that
different. It's
time,
almost a different game. It's almost a different game.
yeah,
How
it
can
is.
that doesn't make any sense? It's still
No, it makes
football, of course
sense.
it is. Everything else is the same, but it isn't. World Cup football is just different. It's just totally different, and you need a different manager for that. You need different philosophy. Um, we haven't looked any worse all the way through the tournament. It's not like we've been shit and got through luckily on any game.
Right.
The
Yeah.
Belgian game doesn't count. That
No,
was a
it doesn't.
friendly.
That was
Weird
a
as it was.
friendly. Exactly.
Um, you know, every other game we've looked genuinely really, really good, and we passed every test. We've had every different type of test you can get in a World Cup, in terms of needing to win late, playing against the dogged team that's parking the bus, uh, scoring a late goal, smashing a team, scare a few of the other teams in the tournament, because you always want that in your locker, that you scored a bunch of goals. The Tunisia game or the Panama game, I mean.
Yeah, that was
You
a
you
good
wanna
fucking win.
you wanna you wanna go through extra time and get through that and still get a result out of the game. You want to be able to win on penalties, and I've had all of those tests, so there's no doubts anymore against any of those things.
Nope. I
They're all gone.
think the only test at this point, because the skill is obviously there, the ability's there, it's always been there. The question is, can
Mm.
they maintain this mentality going forward? That to me is the only real test. Because as the stakes get higher, emotions become prevalent. And are they
Yeah, I
going
mean, at
to?
the end of the day, anything can happen in a semi-final. That's what it's all
Absolutely.
about. That's why it's so good to be in one, because that's why you fancy your chances. But also at the same time, that's why the other team will have exactly the same perspective on that. I would say it's a hard one to call, but I'd probably just by a fraction prefer Croatia over Russia, because even though clearly one team is much better than the other,
That home
And
field advantage.
you still saw today that
Yep.
Russia were able to pull out of the bag and still come back. I thought after they conceded the second goal in extra time that was dead and buried at that point. So the
Right.
fact that they were still able to get something back
It's that
was just
intangible
another
home
one of
field
those
miracle
moments.
thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I I wouldn't, I would fear playing Russia in a semi-final in Moscow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a scary
Do you know what I'm saying? That is a
yes, I do.
cauldron. That is
Yeah.
fucking a cauldron. Whereas playing a very fatigued Croatia side that, other than Modric and Rakitic, they don't really look like they have anything that scary about them. Mandzukic up front, he's okay, but I don't think he'd get in our side, you know. They are a good side, make no mistake about it, but I think England,
Also,
on paper,
the
are a better side,
what
and
about the
we've shown
fatigue
it as well
factor
from
too,
tournament.
man? They've
The
played
fatigue factor is a lovely bonus for us now.
two
They're an
matches
older side
to
anyway.
penalties.
They're an older side, yeah, and they've played another game into extra time, so they're going to be mega fatigued. We play again on Wednesday, so that's not a huge amount of time for them to recover from that.
No, Sunday, Monday,
Plus, a few of
Tuesday.
their
Yeah.
players did take some pretty hefty knocks, and their
Their
keeper
keeper is
was
hammy.
struggling.
Yeah, his hammy.
Mandzukic, they had another player there to sub off, didn't they? They kind of almost run out of subs at one point. Um, so yeah, all those little things just help. They help to tip the scales a little bit, the balance in our favour a little bit. Plus I just think we have the momentum. At the end of the day, um, Croatia have only had to play Denmark and Russia, and they have struggled against both of those sides. England played Colombia. That was a way harder game than any games Croatia have had to play in,
True.
and um,
Colombia
fair
was to
enough. They
me was
beat
the
Argentina,
test.
but Argentina were shit. Really, let's face it. Argentina were basically quite a crap team in this
Yeah, but
tournament this year.
I can't take that one away from them, man. Beating Argentina in
No,
the World
absolutely
Cup
not.
is
No, of course.
fucking
No, take
megaton.
nothing away from it. But that feels like a long time ago now
It
that they beat
does.
that they beat
It does.
Argentina,
Well,
and they
those
struggled
again, the
against
extra
Denmark.
time,
They
the extra
struggled
time,
against
man.
Russia. Yeah, exactly. The extra time. So England, whereas England have had one of the hardest challenges of any game, I think, against Colombia. The way they, attacked us in that game, physically, mentally, verbally, etc. Even the penalty spot they attacked.
Yeah, I remember you telling me
So
that. I
they've
didn't
got the
notice
confidence
that.
in
That
that.
was crazy.
And then today, to come out today, that's what we need, is to come out today and just win a game like really comfortably and professionally, and just look like one of those teams that you go, yeah, they look like they're going to go all the way. That team,
Yep.
in every department, they look comfortable, competent, professional, deadly as fuck. Um, the only doubt for me, the one blemish, is Sterling is not quite. He's a bit. He's a bit of a small version of Emil Heskey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah, I
he's
know what
like
you
super
mean.
quick and he gets in behind, but it always seems to fucking be really clumsy with the ball. And like today, we should have scored. He should have squared it to Kane. But at that point, he's just trying desperately to get himself a goal, I guess. But even still, but then he had his other chances, and I don't know what it is with him. There's always one player that just doesn't seem to ever quite do it for England, and maybe he's one of those players. I mean, I'm not saying what he did in terms of his running in behind and stuff is putting the fear into the defenders anyway. So that just all helps. That's all part of the team tactic. So he's done an awesome job there, but I think he could do better. Is all I'm saying. But that's the other positive thing. It's not like England had to play out of their skins, is it?
No.
Today, so we can play better. We can actually play even better. So that's really positive for us as well. I mean, Croatia had basically all of the game today, and they really struggled to create anything really deadly looking. You know,
I agree.
really, I didn't really see that much I feared from them. Russia just are the more because if you look at both those teams, the one single thing that I pick out that scares me the most out of all of those two teams and any skills or whatever they've got, is just the fact that it was Russia and they're in Moscow. That would scare me, but that's
Yeah.
now not a problem.
Yeah, I
So
would be way more worried about that as well.
yeah,
I
that would
I did feel bad
just
for Russia
feel
to
that.
lose that game the way they lost it
Oh, of
after
course,
everything,
but you
but
know, I think that's fair. They've got to the quarters. That's probably really, on reflection, a fair result. They had a piss easy group. I mean, that first game was just almost a gimme, really, to get their confidence going and just play a team that just looked like they were a pub team, basically. And they've done well. Don't get me wrong, but they've totally maximised their home advantage. But to go beyond that, I think. On the other hand, you know, I wouldn't really fear playing Russia. They looked about on the same sort of level as Sweden, so you'd sort of say, yeah, we should be able to beat them quite easily. But nothing's easy in the semi-final of the World Cup because
no.
suddenly realize
You could
it's
pretty
just a
much,
semi-final.
yeah, man,
And
you
it's more
throw
the fear
everything
of
out.
failure. It's more the fear of failure, I think, that gets players and gets teams. They fuck up, especially England in the past. The fear of failure has just made us fail. Start sitting back, dropping back, panicking.
Yeah, you're not
Can't
going for
string
the win.
thoughts
You're
together.
trying not to lose, and that's
Yes, exactly.
dangerous
And I
as
felt Russia was like
fuck.
that today. Really, they were just sort of trying not to lose that game for most of it, um, which is fair. You got to play to your level, haven't you?
Yep. Yeah.
That's the other problem with England before. They bought into the hype so much. They thought they could go out and play like Brazil, and they hadn't really even
They didn't
adopted
have
a
the unity, man.
proper
The unity
formation and
wasn't
the
there.
unity. They didn't have the unity. That was massive. That definitely wasn't there. You know, you hear them say about it now, and they sort of basically almost admit to it because you get like Rio Ferdinand and Gary Neville doing punditry on the different channels for this World Cup, and you sort of hear them talk about that. And that's always sort of what we suspected because you could just sort of tell that. Yeah, it was just. We're a lot of different team. It's almost like we've had a adoption or a transplant or something like football, or a footballing nation transplant or something. It's
You had a
just
footballing
unreal,
enema.
Really. Yeah, I guess I don't know. I mean, it's really quite bizarre because all we used to is just pure and utter shit, and pure and utter underachievement and disappointment and anger and just
Right.
complete frustration. So enjoyable today. It was just like the best football game I've ever watched in my life today because you know we're 2-0 up and I'm just sitting there thinking this is utterly amazing. I've not got any fear. I don't feel sick right now. I don't feel embarrassed because they're the usual two feelings you get from watching England. And you get to something where it goes frustration, anger, and or it usually goes embarrassment because we concede or get someone sent off, followed by complete anger, followed by complete frustration because we fail to do anything, followed by complete anger and bitterness. That's usually the
Cynicism.
5 stages of England. But
Jeez.
and do you know what? If we go out in the semi-finals, I'll still be chuffed because for us to get this far and do this is just unthinkable.
Yeah.
Absolutely unthinkable.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is
Of course I'll be gutted. Of course I'll be disappointed, and it definitely will be a case of what could have been because.
because it could be.
Yeah,
It very clearly, you look at this team and you go,
point. That's what it is.
yeah, that's the goal, right? That's what everyone's trying to get at. And you look at this team and you go, yeah, I could see it happening. This is definitely a winnable World fucking Cup, man.
There's only 4 teams left, and 2 of them, one of them's going to get knocked out for us by the other team.
Right.
So that there are still massive. I think
It's 2 games. It's 2 games, man.
yeah, it's 2 games.
But really, it's just one. But really, it's just one.
That's definitely achievable. I think the semi-final. I don't think it's unrealistic to think that we should be thinking that we should be able to win that game. Final against France or Belgium, I don't know. I don't know about that. That's a different prospect. that's what you'd want for a final because that would be the hardest game, no doubt about it. You know,
Of
you would be
course.
playing against the best team. You know, before England have gone out because we've gone up against Brazil or Germany earlier on in the knockout stages, and
Hmm.
those teams at those points in those tournaments all looked like one of those teams that was going to win it. So we always felt like an underdog, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't think at any point we've felt like an underdog in this tournament. It's never felt that way. And I think that'll be the same in the semi-final. There's no reason to feel like we were an underdog in any sense. Uh, we get to a
I would have
final
to guess that you would be the betting
Belgium or
favorite
France. Yeah, for the semis, yeah,
for
I
the
would imagine
semis.
so.
Yeah, against
But
if
the final, I mean, you just have to see. The only thing you can hope for is that they both play really badly in the semi-final, Belgium and France.
whoever wins,
And
it's just
they
sort
lose,
of
they
yeah,
lose some confidence on it. Do you know what I mean?
right.
Because at the minute, the two teams that look the deadliest in this tournament, and we're usually very used to talking about a team that's not one of our teams looking super deadly and like they're going to win the thing. That's France and Belgium. They both look pretty fucking good, man. I've got to say.
Yeah, and they're playing each other, which is that could be the final right
So
there.
that's
You know what I mean?
yeah. I mean that. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah,
Wow.
I agree.
Yeah.
So you
Well,
know,
and you have a final four where you can argue, you can honestly say the best teams are there. I could argue
I
that
think so, and I'm
Croatia
really
probably
chuffed to be able
got
to say
got.
that about England as well.
Well, I would say that maybe Croatia got the benefit of the bracket in that they
Yeah,
had
I
a. I
agree with
mean,
that. Yeah.
Denmark, Russia. I mean, ugh, you know,
Mm.
I don't think they're
Oh,
the. I don't think
absolutely.
they're the. I don't think that Croatia is in the top four. Although clearly they're there and they've
They're
done
there, of
something to get
course.
there. But
They
again, benefit of the bracket, I would have
they
put
haven't
Brazil
really
probably
ever.
fourth,
No.
maybe,
Yeah.
or Portugal, or no, not Argentina, but Uruguay for sure was one of the best teams in the tournament. So I think
Yeah, I mean,
we
you
have
know,
a
it's
pretty
amazing
accurate
people
Final
like
Four though. Is I
mentioning
guess is what I'm trying to
Germany,
say.
you're not mentioning Italy or Holland because they obviously didn't even get to it. So, um, yeah, it's kind of crazy stuff, really.
Totally.